Amazon delivery service partners are hiring full-time delivery drivers to meet growing customer demand. Receive compensation of at least $20 per hour at select stations, plus benefits, and a sign-on bonus of $1,000 from participating DSPs if you apply now. No delivery experience required. Must be 21 years or older. Terms apply. Apply today at amazon.com/driver. That's amazon.com/driver.
You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
So folks thought you were a gal?
Yeah. And yeah, he would just give me like a script loosely of like what he wanted me to say, and then we would just go for it. I actually didn't know how it was going to turn out at all. I only knew my part. I think that's what made it so believable. I didn't get like a full script, so I just got my stuff.
Yeah, and you got
so I didn't know what the other actors were saying, and I didn't really know. I only knew what I knew, so that makes it very believable that I only knew what Gal knew. So yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Horror in the High Desert 2, Minerva is out. What's it been like? I think recently you had a showing and things like that related to that film.
Yeah, we went to the unnamed found footage festival in San Francisco, and I waited to watch it because I thought that would be really cool to see it on a big screen. I also haven't been to a movie in a movie theater in a long time, so that was cool. Yeah, it's way more into it. It's not as slow of a burn, I should say, without giving too much away. Kind of Dutch jumps right in to like some pretty spooky found footage stuff. But it's been really fun. I mean, they welcomed us with open arms. It's a really great festival with really amazing people, and they were so sweet and so nice, and they loved the movies. So, I mean, who doesn't love getting love?
Yeah, well, the movies are completely excellent, and your performance in them is just great. It's just like super noticeable. And I've watched your other films, so I really enjoy your work. Not to be missed within it is your performance in that really unique, in the first one, in the unique way of saying like how that was put together. You mentioned on the second one that you waited to watch it and you hadn't been in the film for. Had you done that before? I'm just curious about the experience of like, you finish this film and it's like, I don't know how you don't watch it, but so what was that like going in?
It was really exciting. I just wanted to watch it in the big theater. I've been in a couple other movies that have been in film festivals, and I always think that the energy with a big crowd and seeing how everyone reacts is just way more fun than watching it alone in my living room. So I wanted to wait. Whether they liked it or not, I still love hearing people's reactions, even if it's negative. It's just interesting. It's also interesting because they don't know maybe that you're in there listening.
Yeah. Hanging around with your popcorn and your Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Nearby, just
right.
Anecdote.
Yeah, the director actually just stood in the back of the theater and like paced a bit.
Yeah.
He couldn't sit still.
What an experience.
Yeah.
I've seen you in the film Fenton and Wonder Valley, and you've done a bunch of horror movies. Where's that come from? I mean, I think you said you really dig on horror movies. So like, what's your relationship to horror?
Yeah, my dad really got me into horror movies when I was a kid. His big thing was kids love to be scared. So I remember seeing Psycho and Village of the Damned when I was younger. And then I remember once he took me to see Pet Sematary in the movie theater. And he didn't tell me really what it was about, and it really scared me. And I just got like a love for horror movies. My cousins and I would go to the video store and try to rent scary movies, and somehow my mom just didn't care and let us. we watched some pretty disturbing stuff as kids.
It happens when you dabble with the horror. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as I came out here to LA to do acting, I just fell into it. My first couple movies that I did were horror, and it's like a small family. So once you do one, people know you from that one, and then someone on that one's working on a new one, and then they're like, "Oh, you should be on this one." And you before you know it, that's just your genre. And I love it. I wouldn't change it. I think making horror movies are the most fun. I've done a couple other types of movies, and horror, there's just an energy about it, and everyone on set is just trying to really make something fun and cool, and it's just a good time. So I love it.
Yeah, I think there's something. I mean, horror film is a different experience for a lot of people. Some people can't watch it, and I know that it has like an impact on you, but like I think the viewer a lot of times thinks about that, like they're going
Yeah.
for that to get that energy out. And I tell you, I've never had experiences comparable to watching horror movies. Like I watched Paranormal Activity for the first time in the theater, and I walked out of that theater and I was standing outside a car. I was scared shitless. Like I was like, do I talk to somebody? It scared me so much. It felt so real. And there's something about horror movies. I think of when I watched Poltergeist, I was at that tender age. So
Yeah.
like 12 or 13 or something with Poltergeist. And as far as a feature film, just the images and stuff, there's something thrilling if you look for experiences that can come from horror movies where you're like, I'm really affected right now.
Yeah. I thought Blair Witch was real when I first went to the
Yeah.
theater. I was like, I can't believe the family is exploiting their children.
Yeah, that was messed up. And it was like the sticks in the woods and the
Oh
witchiness
yeah.
of like Maryland. Like I lived in Maryland for a bit, and like I just knew that area and that creepy something about that hit just right,
Yeah.
What I find interesting about the horror that I've seen you do is the location of the desert and the high desert. So I'm an East Coast guy. I lived in the Midwest and I live in the Pacific Northwest right now. And I've lived in the desert in Klamath Falls on the opposite side of the range here in Oregon. And I've been to New Mexico and Arizona, and it's a newer environment for me, but I found it fascinating watching horror where you're performing within that realm because I don't think that way. I think Jason, I think the woods, I'm scared of the woods. I think
Yeah.
certain things. And I think of the desert is like full of mystery and some of the sound dynamics that are going on in the films that you there. What do you think about your experience? Am I building it up too much? But the desert is a place for horror.
Yeah, I know this one came because this is where Dutch is from. He grew up in a little town of Ely, Nevada. Um, so I think for him, it was just making something while he was at home during the pandemic. I've been in other horror movies that have been in the desert. And I think it's also convenience for a lot of filmmakers out here in LA because it is so quick. You can just drive like 2 hours and then you're in the desert.
Yeah.
But I think the vastness of it is really scary. You could definitely hide a body out there and no one would know. I mean, we did some rogue filming I was in a movie called American Mummy, and I don't think we were supposed to be out there, but no one ever stopped us because we were just in the middle of nowhere. Like no one even knew we were making a movie out there because that's how vast and you're just alone. And I mean, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the desert. I think I'm not exposed to it enough, so I still share some of the kind of like romantic ideas of it. And there's this brute reality of the desert that I would certainly respect before heading in. Like
Yeah,
for
like The Hills Have Eyes is like I think in the desert too, and that it's just everything's dead if you think about it too. It takes you have to have a really hard, thick skin to survive and live out there. And so if you can imagine what's been living out there and wants to do you harm, I mean that's terrifying.
Yeah, well, one of the things I picked up on when I first went to Albuquerque, I went a couple times last year, first time in my life, but I felt right off the bat as soon as I got there that there was just a different energy, like that was moving through, and it was like dust and dry and desert. But I was like,
Yeah.
this is completely different from the tree respiration of the Pacific Northwest. It is just a
Yeah.
different vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like because the woods you can try to survive. There's things that are there to help you survive. And I think in the desert, it's just an environment that's like actively trying to kill you. So
You just scared me a little more. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
At least in the woods, it's you got some stuff you could find out there. It's
yeah,
where is water? No,
exactly.
no,
Yeah,
no water.
yeah.
No, thanks for chatting about that. I gotta ask you about your work as a puppeteer. Tell me about puppets. I have a friend of mine who is a puppet. She buys really nice puppets, and she is a puppeteer with them. And I find that a couple, older adults like myself kind of track her down and be like, do a puppet show for us. So, love puppets. What's your relationship and work with puppets?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I was working at a coffee shop when I first came to LA, and there was a guy that would street perform in front of the coffee shop a lot, and I thought he was homeless, so I would constantly be giving him free coffee and free food. And in turn, he just thought that I really liked him because he wasn't homeless. He was just a puppeteer, street performing. And we became really good friends. And he was house sitting once, and he was like, "Do you want to come to this house that I'm house sitting?" And I was like, "Sure." And I went up into like the Hollywood Hills, and this person that he was house sitting for just had puppets everywhere, like Kermit the Frog and all the Labyrinth puppets and
Wow, talk
Jim
about welcome
Henson
to
stuff. I mean,
Wonderland. Wow.
yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person's obsessed with puppets. And he was like, yeah, well, this is Heather Henson's house. This is Jim Henson's daughter. And I was like, so is this really Kermit? Like, is this like Miss Piggy?
This is
Like the
Kermit.
Miss Piggy?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, probably. It's definitely like a prototype. I was like, this
Um,
is crazy. And I just loved the kind of puppeteering he did. His name's Eli Presser, and he does these like beautiful, almost like Tim Burton-y type of like spooky puppets. And I had just never seen anything like it. And I was like, I want to do what you do. And he's like, okay. And so he just trained me one day, and I would street perform with him. And then we just started working on music videos together. And he was like, you have a knack for this. I worked briefly at Bob Baker Marionette Theater here in Los Angeles doing puppet shows. And yeah, I guess I just sort of fell into it. I didn't like set out to be a puppeteer. I had no idea that it was even a skill that I could do.
it's not
Now I've
something you
done,
talk about all the time when you're a kid.
yeah, I've done like a lot of really cool, like immersive theater, like horror immersive theater out here with a group called like Creep LA, and doing puppets for them. And yeah, it's just did a couple like music videos for Nora Jones, Seawolf. It's just been a crazy ride. And yeah, I just fell into it. I don't even know what happened, but I love it. I love doing it. It's
Yeah.
really weird. And the weirder, we do a lot of really weird puppet shows. So like it's like outside the box of, your normal like Jim Henson puppets or marionettes. We kind of push the envelope of odd and spooky.
I like this. I like this vibe. I do have to tell you that the for the podcast, I have announced roles at time, and I do have a patron saint of the show, and her name's Avizia Dakini, and she does puppeteering. It's a Jesus puppet, and it should have a disclaimer. That's another topic. But the show has been friendly to puppeteering. I think of like the Henson and the Muppets. It's like it's such an outsized impact on my brain and mind. Again, maybe growing up when I did as well, growing up in the 80s and stuff, like it's such a huge impact. And I think like The Muppets Christmas Carol is one of the most beautiful, sweet, like movies, maybe the best holiday movie I've ever seen. And I thought about that last couple of years, just like with the puppets and like the conveyance of like, I don't know, all that
Yeah.
stuff that is pretty magical. I don't know. So I'm down with the puppets. So thank you for
Yeah,
indulging.
my friend does Thanksgiving every year, and we go to his house, and his tradition is to watch a episode from the Muppet Show. So
Love it. Love
yeah.
Muppet Showtime.
Yeah.
I want to chat with you about art because, like, looking
Sure.
at some of the things you've done and some of your interests and some of the things you've already talked about. What's been your what's been your relationship with art? Did you see yourself as an artist at a particular point in your life?
Um, I don't know. I think I just saw myself as an only child and wanting to be the center of attention at all times. And that just kind of like fell into any type of theater. I was a dance kid. I did like dance recitals when I was really young, community theater. Um, my dad's really into music. My dad's a record producer, and so I grew up with like pretty artistic household. And acting was just something that, I mean, you have to keep yourself busy as an only child. So I would constantly be like, I'd have my Barbies and I would act out a whole entire show. I would write it out first. And I think that just stemmed into any type of way of expressing myself, whether it's through acting, really bad karaoke, puppets. I'm not like an artist of like painting wise, I don't think. Though I do like wine and paint nights. Those are always fun. But yeah, I don't know. I think it, what I do is an art form. So yeah, I didn't think I set out to be an artist when I was really young. I just kind of knew what I liked to do to have fun, and I wanted to continue to do that for like the rest of my life somehow. I
Yeah,
didn't want to like the 9 to 5 job. So I wanted to make this work. And so
yeah, yeah. I know it does sound always like as an identity question, interesting one. I always get, different answers because I know sometimes and like it has to do with the definition of what an artist is when you answer the question, right? So I would look at the things that you do externally, not knowing you, but seeing like your performances and things, and seeing like the puppeteering and hearing you talk about um always wanting to perform in theater and just like that whole performance or the intent to create. So I like sometimes I'm have an artist that I see a particular way and they come on the show and they're like, well, I'm not really an artist. Like I'm something different, like I'm something different. And so leading into the question of what art is, I was wondering your opinion on what is art? What do you think art is?
um I think art is just a way of a self-expression, whether it comes out in acting, music, singing, painting. Every character I play is an extension of myself. I always try to put myself in every character one way or the other, because otherwise I don't feel like I'm real. And I want all my characters to be real. I don't want to seem like I'm acting. So yeah, I think art is just an expression of yourself, putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and taking a chance. Whether it's well received or not, you learn either way. And even bad press is good press. Any press is good press. So
That I've
yeah,
that I've learned and been told, and nobody's
yeah.
nobody's disproved it exactly.
I mean, sometimes when I hear that a movie has gotten terrible reviews, I immediately want to watch it.
Oh,
So
I don't, I mean, in horror reviews, I would say for myself is like when there's positive and attentive thinking going to horror and analyzing it and criticizing, that's a different beast than subjecting horror movies to the regular critical view. It doesn't fit in. It doesn't,
yeah,
it's never good enough. So I find reviews in horror to be the ones you have to parse out the most because they're incredibly unreliable.
Yeah.
And you gotta, when you read in the review of somebody who understands horror, they don't have to be obsessed about it, but somebody who understands what's being attempted with the film, and then it's like there's a cure and a consideration of you're operating within, say, found footage and horror and what techniques are being used. And I think sometimes there's a blunt analysis of this doesn't look like Gallipoli, so
Yeah.
it sucks. So
Yeah. It's definitely good when you get a good review on like a definite like a Fangoria or Dread Central or one of those like that specialize in horror movies and watching horror movies and they know horror. Yeah.
one of the things I've enjoyed on the show is on horror movies. I've had a couple directors of Friday the 13th fan films that have kind of continued on from the Friday the 13th franchise, and they're really high quality. And I've really enjoyed having James Sweet and Vincent DeSanti on the show, and being able to drop in to like film horror is a real treat. And those are kind of like Kickstarter films and stuff. So there tends to be a lot of community around that. Related to your thoughts about art, I wanted to ask you, Susie, what you think the role of art is. And I've asked this recently in the sense of, as I've talked to folks recently, I don't know, politics and climate change and I don't know, the way the world feels now in 2023 versus, at least for me, versus a few years ago. Has the role of art changed? Or do you think it's, it's
I actually think it's needed even more, to be honest, with the way our world is. I think people need the outlet. They need that, like, they need the entertainment. They need something to inspire them. They need something that speaks to them, whatever kind of art it is. So I think it's even more important. I think it's going to keep growing in importance I mean, it's always really been important if you look back on history too. Like that's always when things were bad or things were hard, everyone would, look to art, look to going to the theater, look to reading books, look to, going to a museum and that sort of thing. So yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah.
I like forgot it halfway through.
With this show, I mean, and it's respectful of the quality that's within the show with me and my guests, but I don't call people back or it's like let's keep going. So one of the things I was interested in as far as your thoughts on art being more important now. One of the things I've been wondering lately is I would say it's both a very tangible obsession with crime, horror. You see it within podcasts, you see it within culture and stuff. And in my head, and being a horror fan and thinking about like the pandemic or thinking like deep into that, like what's happened with people. Susie, what's going on with people like tripping out on like all the horror and true crime? Do you know what's going on? It feels very palpable and huge.
I mean, I'm guilty for that.
I'm guilty too. We're guilty parties. There's no reason for defense here.
I don't know. I think it's the psychology of it for me. I can't speak for everyone. I love watching true crime and I love watching anything about serial killers or just people that have like flipped their lid because I just want to know why. I want to know what happened. I want to like the psychology. I want to know what's in their brain and why their brain is the way that it is, because for me, that's just so crazy of a way to be. And I could never imagine doing that. So I want to know what is going on like inside their head. So I obsessively listen to that stuff. And it's not like I'm not idolizing anyone that commits crime like that. I'm so curious to know like why. Like why, like what happened? I mean, a lot of it seems to stem from childhood trauma, but sometimes not always. Sometimes it's just someone who just kind of was totally okay and then just like snapped.
Yeah. So it's like I know there's that psychological piece of figuring that out. When I went to I studied philosophy. I have creds. I studied philosophy at Marquette University, mid '90s, and I lived 4 blocks from where Dahmer's apartment building was, and the I could see the Ambassador Hotel from where like my apartment was. It was like 1 block over that way where and I it's like a deep fascination with the true horror. Like there's this like the apartment building's demolished, but I just stare at it and see what's there. It's like it's really strange, particularly in like industrial Wisconsin, like in old months, that type of thing. Wisconsin's pretty big on Midwest is pretty good on the history of serial killers. You go to the Midwest, you can spend a lot of time there. But
yeah,
I think a lot of the psychology is what really becomes like fascinating. Or like why the heck somebody, or like did they snap, or is like, and also when you hear them like a serial killer talk and you start to like listen to them and they talk, I don't know, say normal, but like you're listening to them talk and you're like, I don't want to keep following your brain that way, but there's this kind of trickery or something. Well, that's probably somebody's PhD thesis, and we shouldn't really.
I mean, part of me wanted to go into like criminal psychology when I was in college, just because I was so fascinated with how that part of the brain functioned and why it worked the way it worked or didn't work, or but.
So what and speaking of finally, we'll leave this horror piece here, but I was thinking of the desert in LA, and like I've been long fascinated by the Manson family and that there. I thought of the desert now, so we were talking about it earlier, and is culturally, what I wanted to ask about that culturally, the whole thing with that, is that a mythos down there? Is it so far away, or is it kind of like still have this spooky element of like this, the terror and the horror of the late '60s, the killing of a starlet, all of that?
I mean, I listened to, it's funny, I think it's still happening. I think we just don't know much about. I listen to a lot of podcasts about true crime that still kind of goes on in Hollywood and Los Angeles, and it's still so spooky. Charles Manson, being one. I think everyone's obsessed with him and his story because, he didn't actually. For him being able to convince a bunch of people to do something for him is just crazy and so powerful, and that's so scary.
Yeah, I think that's the core of it right there, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I've never, it's on one of my bucket lists to go to, where his little hideout is in the desert.
Spawn Ranch. Yeah.
Just to kind of see, without trying to glorify it too much. I'm just, it's mostly curiosity. Like, I definitely don't want to I'm not like someone who is like, oh my gosh, I love Charles Manson. But I'm just so curious.
Well, there's Hollywood stuff there, and not like the Spawn Ranch being like the kind of the old westerns, like where they would film some of the westerns and have like the horses from there, and that part of Hollywood was dying, and like you had people on that ranch who were like existing, but they were just kind of out in the desert, kind of like floated away from LA, and they just moved in. It's a strange space to think of, and I think in relation to LA, obviously Tarantino built that as far as the connection to Hollywood, but there's an LA underbelly or horror or ghosts or something in there, I think. So you're from Michigan, Susie?
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, it's funny you bring up Charles Manson too. In Wonder Valley, I think you said you watched Wonder Valley. we filmed, supposedly, there's like a room where I'm sitting in, and not to give away too much, but I'm being forced to eat really gross meat. In that
Yes,
scene.
yes.
That house that we filmed in was apparently Charles Manson's like childhood home briefly when he was like 2 or 3 years old. And the woman that let us film there, the reason she let us film there and let it, because it was so gross, is because she was in the middle of redoing it to have it be like a B&B where people could stay in Charles Manson's childhood home. It was really spooky.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was starting to ask you about Michigan. Let's not go anywhere yet.
I'm just saying, like, I wanted, like, yeah, I don't know if she ever fixed it up or if it actually is rented, rentable now. But I mean, we were filming there at night too, and it was always just something always felt off. And I know he only lived there when he was a little kid, supposedly. That's what this woman said, but it definitely was so spooky filming there. I mean, it was so quiet, nothing around.
If he was there,
Anywhere.
yeah, I mean, even if he was there when he was younger, it was a deep delinquency, like off, like, I mean, like really early on with him. So I think about like the energies, and must have felt weird being out there then. You didn't know that then, or like they were like, hey,
no, we knew that then when we were filming. She like told us. She was very proud of it. So she told us all about it. I don't know if she had any proof, but this is like, she's a woman who's living in the desert. So
let's ask.
I would like to think it's not made up. I would like, I like to think that it was true.
Let's ask a different art question then, like
Okay.
related to our conversation, right? I think about what's his name? Bobby Beausoleil, one of the killers in the Manson family. He's an artist in prison, right? And so I've been fascinated and say, what do you do with art from the hands of a killer? And what do we do with Charles Manson songs which catch your ear? Because I've listened to Charles Manson songs because I'm deeply fascinated by what that is, and what happens when a Manson song catches your ear. What do we do with that type of stuff? Or what do you do? What do you suggest? Like, any ideas?
I don't know if there's a way to part of me doesn't want to support them at all because they're killers.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and like I don't want to, like, but at the same time, is there a way to separate their art for what they did? Is their art really good, or is it because they're who they are, or do we really like it because it's catching our eye, or is it catching our eye and ear because of who they are?
Their pen or their paint was, that was on it. I thought it was just an interesting question because, like, let's say Beausoleil, all right, so he was convicted killer, and let's say right after that he goes through an intense, completely religious conversion, a true follower of Christ in all past, right? Deep sinner. Now I'm there. And now he does other types of art. I've always thought of like those type of questions of like, should we ever receive art and from there? And if we do, do we buy it because the money goes to the victims fund, or can you buy it when, I think those things just fascinate me. And I don't.
Yeah, it's like, well, Gacy was an artist too, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, I don't. Maybe if the money goes somewhere good, but then do you want to have that art in your house?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if I would be proud of that. I would be like,
energy can travel, and I know for some folks it'd be like, nah, like you don't even put that even. Like,
I don't know. I mean, maybe, it's hard because it's like whether or not if they're redeemed, if they're a better person, if they've changed, can people really change? Can people that do that change? I don't know. I have no idea. Only they know if they really have become, if they've really have become a different person and decided that what they did was wrong. It's hard. I watch a lot of like stuff too about people who are in prison and listen to like their stories and how they feel now. And half of me is like, I totally believe that they feel really bad. And the other half is like, but are they fucking with me?
Right.
Like,
you did too much. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so yeah. Yeah, I can't. That's in their heart and soul, I guess. They have to. I don't know if I would want to buy their art though. I might just give money to the victims fund, and then the art can just go somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can burn it or something.
Well, thanks for kicking this one around. Boy, I don't know. I even think it shows up sometimes on film, right? So like let me if you'd indulge me, like
Sure.
thinking about The Shining, right?
Okay.
Shelley Duvall, right? So the text, the film, the what's captured there is tied to our heads and what we know now to be some sort of psychological abuse. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's a remnant. Now you're watching The Shining, which for me is a brilliant film, just for me, just my opinion. And you're watching some sort of video of distress or acting, and it's been weirder for me watching that film recently. I still watch it.
Yeah.
It's weirder though.
It's yeah. I mean, I've had directors too where I've had to be, I don't want to say pushed, but I guess triggered. Whether or not it was crossing a boundary, I don't know. It definitely got the performance that was needed. I try to like like put it in one section on my brain. I can't say that word. I can't say words.
Compartmentalize. Didn't know if I didn't know if I'd get it right, but I got
Yeah,
it.
I'm terrible with pronunciation. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like there's that one too, the hills. No, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue where she was like fake raped, but then she comes out later saying, I spit on your grave.
Oh yeah, of course. In
There's
the
like a
early
there's like a
70s.
really tremendous like rape scene where she was like actually like handled wrong and they really put her through the ringer as well.
Right,
So it's
right.
like, do we watch that for art's sake or do we, veto it? Yeah,
It's
it
just
definitely puts into like a sour taste in your mouth. I would never want, a director to do that to me. The stuff that I've had done is basically like, your dog just died and like that kind of thing. Or like a picture of my dead dog, which made me cry out of
we'll get
nowhere.
like the strange hierarchy where it was just one of the somebody
Yeah.
cried, and they did that one on me and it worked. Oh
Yeah.
goodness,
I mean,
yeah.
for me, acting wise too, like substitution's always been big and a big help for me. So I always try to think of something if I have to have an emotional scene, something in my real life that really did make me, upset and emotional. And that's helped me get a real performance. But I'm also like, a healthy person. I've worked through a lot of shit, so it doesn't hurt me to bring it back up, but it is useful, I
Yeah.
should say. Yeah.
Oh no, thanks for the insight. And yeah, and on like I said, I really I've seen a few of your films now, like recently seen some of your older ones, and really appreciate your work there. I don't think that's to be missed. I think sometimes within acting or even within horrors, I think there's, like I was trying to point to earlier, there's subtleties and things that are going on that are missed. But I just wanted to let you know that I saw those in the film. They're remarkably effective within the overall of what you're doing.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think horror's doing like I mean Jamie Lee Curtis won an Oscar, which is awesome, and she's a old scream queen, so it's just really
yeah.
impressive. You have Jordan Peele making like exceptional, wonderful horror movies and getting like noticed as well, which is so
Oh,
awesome. And
great.
I think, horror's not to be, we're not it's acting in a horror movie is not easy.
No,
And I don't think a lot of people realize that to just run and cry all the time is takes a lot out on you. So it's nice when horror gets recognized by its peers, I guess I should say.
well, I think the public sometimes holds two things, right? Like it's easy, but I also recognize failure all the time within it, right? Like she's not
Yeah.
believable or they're not believable, and it's like I said, kind of common conceptions of horror don't do any work for me as far as understanding anything. So, I was jumping in. We stayed in the desert there, but just wanted to ask you about your experience in Michigan and like acting, and I know you studied film there, so
Yeah.
that was your trajectory. What just you want to talk a bit about that experience and being there and working in film?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the country, 10 acres of nothing.
That part of
Um,
yeah, sure.
yeah, and I started, like I said, with dance, and then a lot of community theater. So much community theater growing up. Never like a lot of musicals. And then when I went to college, my parents really wanted me to have a degree to fall back on. They didn't want me to do drama. They did not want me to study theater. And all I wanted to do was study theater and do drama. But I got a video camera when I was really young, like 14, and I was making videos with my friends and my cousins. And I really,
What kind of
huh?
camera? What kind of
High
camera?
8 millimeter
Yeah, yeah,
camera.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
And then I also had I had a Super 8 camera too,
I
like
got
a
one of
little
those.
film camera. Yeah, and I just started making videos, and I was in high school and someone asked me if I did weddings. And I think I was like 16. And I was like, I could do a wedding,
Yeah, yeah,
knowing nothing about what I was doing.
yeah.
And then
$500. $500.
yeah, and then and then it snowballed from there, and I started making wedding videos. So my parents, I think, saw that, and my dad had a recording studio, so I would make music videos for his bands that he was recording, and then I make wedding videos. And I think my mom's a nurse, so she's very logical on like having a degree and going to work, and my dad's more of the free spirit. So I think my dad would be more okay with me doing theater, but when I did tell my dad I wanted to be an actress, he's like, "You want to be a waitress then?" I was like, "Okay." Um, but I think they saw film as something that could bring in, could pay the bills. I think they thought that I could do wedding videography or make music videos like with local bands and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So when I decided to do film, they were like, "That's okay. You can study film." Even though as soon as I graduated college, I left Michigan and moved to LA for acting.
Well, you
And
could
didn't
have got
do
away with
any
anything
film.
you want if you just walked around and said cinema for a couple months around them. I mean, cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you got the film, and that's interesting to hear. As far as I adore Super 8. My Super 8 camera is not acting the way it should, but my dad bought it in '73 because he wanted to take Super 8 of little Kenny when he was like one, and that I used that Super 8 camera for a while, and like I couldn't adore something more than that little
Yeah,
Super.
I think mine also was my dad's as well. My dad was also really into photography and stuff like that. So when I did move to LA, he did give me a lot of like his old like 35 millimeter like photography cameras,
Sure.
and some like a medium format camera he gave me to take out here. And because when I was in college, it was great being a film student and then being able to I was still doing wedding videos and I was still doing music videos, but instead of my high 8 camera with like one camera, I was able to like rent out 3 cameras and then pay my friends to like
Dang,
help me. So I had like
boss lady
I had a
over.
whole little business going on. Yeah, it was crazy. And then I came out to LA and I just stopped doing that. I wanted to really try to do acting. I mean, I came out here not knowing anyone. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I was like, well, I'll start working, I guess, as a waitress, like my dad said. See
You
what
had,
happens.
you had just like a deep familiarity with like working professionally with film already, so
Yeah. I mean, I did like in film school, we made movies. That's what we did, and it was great because I would be in all my friends' movies in film school because I had a theater minor. I was still in the theater in college. I just wasn't majoring in it. So I would still be in all my friends' student films. And I did my first like feature film. I was working as a PA in Detroit on a feature film, and I got to be a waitress in it and a dead body. And that was like super cool.
Waitress and dead body and acting. It's all like this
It was really, and it was a horror movie. It was like a D&D horror movie.
D&D horror movie. Hey, this sounds great.
Yeah,
Game gone wrong type of premise.
it's like I think it's called Night Chills.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if it's even out there. But I know it's about a kid who played D&D who was made fun of, and I know that he dies and he comes back as his big burly D&D character and seeks revenge on everybody that was mean to him.
Yeah, like Barbarian or something.
Yeah.
Speaking
he was a knight. He was a big knight.
Okay.
So yeah, Night Chills. That's why it was KNIGHT.
Well, I D&D is back on the big screen, and D&D never gone anywhere. As many of us know. I was watching a documentary on the big scare around the D&D in the 80s and stuff like that. I remember elements of that. I didn't realize it was such a big deal, like the engine of like the devil or something like that. It was much bigger of a deal than maybe I gave it credit for or paid attention to at the time.
I think I did The Island, and I was in Michael Bay's The Island. I was a background person. I did that when I was in Michigan still.
I gotta find you in that film. That's a cool film. I love the environment in that one.
Yeah, I was actually just there with a friend who was working as a PA on wardrobe, and I had done a hair show where my hair was really weird. I was like a weird, like futuristic, odd haircut, and Michael Bay asked if I was background, and they're like, no, she's just helping out with wardrobe, and he's like, can you just have her in this shot though, because I like her hair. So I got to be in some shot that I think is even edited out of the
yeah,
it was really cool. I like never was on a big set like that before.
Hey, that's how you get in there. Should have just popped off and said you were in XYZ scene. It's you're
right
around right now and be like, ah, shit, she said I like her hair, she's in those scenes too.
Yeah, it was really fun. But yeah, I did another movie too out there. I can't remember what it's called right now, it's escaping me, but I know my mom went to set with me because she was nervous. It was a night shoot. She didn't want me there by myself. Yeah. And I played a nurse, and so did my mom. My mom actually got to play a nurse because they were setting up some patient and they put all the tubes in wrong. And my mom, being a nurse, was like
going crazy on catheter. You're like, I can't watch this.
Yeah. She's like, you're putting a catheter in someone's nose. It doesn't go there. So they brought her onto set, and they're like, well, you tell us what to do.
Oh, goodness. Yes, I could see how you both got involved for sure. How she got involved. So you worked with film a lot, and you moved from Michigan and LA, and then you got involved, and
I did a movie. It's funny. My dad did all these audio for one of my movies, like mixing. He did all the stereo sound for a movie called Entrance, which was crazy because he's in Michigan, and the director of that was actually filming something else that he was working on in Michigan, and on his days off would go to my dad's studio and they would mix the movie. And my dad was really sweet and did it for free. So
very nice. Yeah. I had recognized before. I'd seen a photo that you're a Death Valley Girls fan. Yeah, and I had them on the show. I just want to tell you a quick shout out to Death Valley Girls. I had them. I was able to interview them before going into a small music club bar, Kelly's, well known in Portland, and then capture a bootleg inside. And it was so fun to interact with them, and like they're definitely thinking of like creative energy and sharing and all that stuff. And then I had Sammy Westervelt, who's also in the band, on, and soon I am having Bonnie Bloomgarden, the lead singer, and we're going to talk about UFOs.
Oh,
so she's I'm doing research, but Susie, it was easier to do research for you. I could watch, your films and read about you. On the UFO thing, I don't know which angle to take. So,
My parents saw a UFO.
did they? Tell us.
Yeah.
Tell me.
My mom and dad were driving home late one night, and we lived in the country, like I said, in Michigan.
Yeah.
And they came to a stop sign, and a silver looking, saucer looking thing came down right in front of them. And my mom describes it as almost like iridescently clear, but still like had weird colors.
Yeah.
And it was like she could see inside it, and like things moving around inside. And then as quickly as it dropped down, it just vanished, and like the trees all shook, and it was just gone.
And that was,
and my mom and dad saw it, and
that was
they didn't even know what to say to each other. They were just like, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So whether it's a UFO, I mean, definitely a UFO, but whether it's aliens, I don't know. They don't know, but.
Well, Bonnie Bloomgarden and Death Valley Girls. It's nice to connect with you, and then we'll connect with them. I was watching the second season of Fargo again, and I forgot about the aliens motif that was in the second season of that show. So I was like super excited to see that again after a few years. But yeah, UFOs, aliens, and when I moved to Oregon, Southern Oregon. Man, I had so many people telling me stories. It's like a huge this strange place I live in. But in the woods and in Southern Oregon, there's a ton of sightings of UFOs. And I've talked to people, just had deep conversations with them, and they talk about it as this is like a central point or a location or something. And I don't know. I don't know the whole thing, but I was people would openly talk about, people talk to me about a lot of things, but like, just like excited about it, like, and being like, hey, and so.
Yeah, I mean, on the way to Ely, Nevada, you have to take the extraterrestrial highway for a little bit.
Do you? Is that really?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's just cool.
I got a road trip. I've been reading too many Hunter S. Thompson books and thinking about the desert. I might have a road trip out of this. Okay, Susie.
I saw Death Valley Girls in a concert in the desert.
Did you?
Yeah, that's how I found out about them. I went to a festival called Desert Days, and they were just playing, and I was like, these chicks are rad. So I immediately bought their T-shirt.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and I've been interested in a lot of since I've been doing the podcast, connecting to like the collective energy of festivals, of cons and things like that. It's just different there, and I found like it's cool to be at those music festivals. I'm reminiscing. I went to Woodstock '94. I was talking about it to somebody recently, and I'm like, Woodstock '94 is 2023. Okay, 30th anniversary for Woodstock 1994.
That's awesome.
Coming up. So the question is, Susie, the question of the podcast is why is there something rather than nothing?
Gosh, there's a really great piece of art at Burning Man this year. Oh, I want to look it up because I took a photo of it, and it has to do with your question.
Take your time. Yeah, let's talk about.
And I want to know what it said, because I feel like it could be a great answer to this question. And
this year, you went recently to Burning Man?
I do. Yeah, I go every year.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah, I've never been.
It's crazy and wonderful at the same time. Also in the desert, also in an environment that is actively trying to kill you.
Oh boy, so, you keep bringing that up.
Okay, so your question was, say it one more time.
Why is there something rather than nothing? But you'd have the answer on your phone.
Well, the art piece is a big thing that says the only other thing is nothing.
I like
So,
categorically the only other thing. Wow,
so
I think you've tricked. I think you've. I think,
I think I've like weirdly answered it, but made it more confusing.
No, I think you might have provided another automatic answer. I really enjoyed that answer. The other one, because I'm such a big Douglas Adams fan, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you can say the number 42 and get away and go on to the next question and talk about your work. So I really like that. I really like that a lot. And I like you came from Burning Man, just talking about festivals and cons and stuff.
Yeah,
like
and it came from the desert as well.
came
So
from the desert. The wisdom comes from the desert. That's what we've arrived upon. We didn't know how to say it earlier, but
right.
the wisdom of the desert. Susie, how do listeners find your film, find where the films are, or
I think a lot of them. I have a bunch on Tubi. You gotta love a free streaming
I
service.
love movies straight up.
Yeah, there's a bunch on there. I know there's a couple found footage ones that I've been in. I recently had someone tell me, they were like, "Oh, I saw your other found footage film," and I'm like, "I've been in another one."
You didn't get credits. I mean, this sounds like a union issue.
I forgot that it was a found footage element film, so I forgot that it was. But I don't. Yeah, so there's like one on Tubi that was just released called "Where's Amy Pressman" that I did. It was my very first movie, so be kind.
That's on Tubi. That's cool. I asked you the question, but I know because on Amazon they have the Horror in the High Desert, which you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say Amazon. I know I have a lot of movies on Amazon as well. I think Entrance is still on Amazon. That's I feel like that movie was. I mean, that's the movie I have to give credit for being in to even get me to Horror in the High Desert. Because Dutch, the director of that movie, saw me in Entrance and saw me at like a coffee shop and basically waited for me outside the coffee shop to talk to me. And I thought he was joking when he was like saying, "I'm a huge fan." And I'm like, "Oh, bullshit." He was like, "No, I really am."
Yeah.
And then we started talking and he was doing Infernum. And so I ended up being in Infernum, and from Infernum went into Horror in the High Desert. So I know Entrance is out there. Gosh, I wish I had more answers. I
No,
think they're out there somewhere.
no, and I got the Horror in the High Desert. I
That's definitely Amazon and Tubi.
Yeah, I purchased that one. That was a good price, and it was a good rental price there. Infernum was
Thank
on Amazon, and it's streaming. The stuff's out there. It's great to it's great. But yeah, folks, a lot of stuff on Amazon, and you can find your film credits on IMDb. Where you get things.
And I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I'm not a TikToker yet, though. Everyone keeps telling me I need to be.
Yes.
I'm like, I just feel too old.
No, it's I'm very fascinated by TikTok. I don't like being fascinated by things for too long a time without being able to make the effort or interact with. I don't like to have opinions from afar forever.
Yeah.
When something's dynamic with that, I always am intrigued by what people can do with video, and there's dynamics right now that it's tough to gain attention of folks, but I think it's like podcasts face that and films and all that type of thing. But I think there's something about paying attention to what's there in the quality and spending some time with art, which is what I try to do, because otherwise it feels facile and quick moving and just non-attentive. So
Yeah.
I am a very big attentive fan of you, Suziey Block. And
Thank you. That's so sweet.
yeah, and enjoyed your openness talking about like puppeteering and horror and that and all that. I got a lot of spooky stuff in the podcast, which is pretty cool. Like painters who, kind of one who does watercolors based off old photographs, particularly of children, and brings them out in large size watercolor, named Brianna C. Martins. And a recent episode I recorded with Ryan Brosmer just recently, within the last few days, I was staying at the Heceta Head Lighthouse in Oregon, which is haunted.
Oh yeah, ghosts is a whole other thing. I could talk about that forever too.
We can't leave. I don't know how much time you have. You got.
I know. I'm
not ending this episode with when we got to broach ghost, and I would talk and you would talk. So, tell me some ghost stuff.
I definitely think I can't tell if ghosts are ghost or if it's just a weak spot in a multiverse.
Keep going with that.
Like, I really don't know if that's just like our two worlds kind of having like a soft spot, so we just see the other world, or is it someone in a past life or an entity or supernatural of some sort? I don't know. I tend to go down rabbit holes on the internet about both subjects because I saw a ghost once when I was younger, and I saw something. I don't know what it was. But it's just like, I don't know what I can't explain it. So I just am fascinated and I want to figure it out. And I've still never been able to figure it out.
You see, when you saw the ghost, do you see it or did you feel
it was like there's a moment where friends of mine broke in to an abandoned
statute of limitations. I'm not a lawyer, but we're waiting.
Yeah, we broke into this abandoned like house that was in a campground where I grew up. I won't say the campground so I don't get in trouble. There you go. But we broke into.
I said I'm not a lawyer. I wasn't giving you lawyer advice. I'm giving you.
I don't know if I'll get in trouble, but I don't think I will. We broke in and we heard it was haunted. Nothing really scary was happening. We were sitting in this little area, and all of a sudden, it looked like someone sat. There's like a cushy chair next to us, and it looked like someone sat in the chair. And this happened right after my friend turned a light on, and then it looked like a butt print and a back print went into the chair. And as we saw that, we then noticed that the light wasn't plugged in yet; it was on. And then we ran as fast as we could. Like, it scared the bejeebus. Like, we were just, nope. You think like every time I watch the Ghost Adventures type shows,
yeah,
I'm always like, how do they stay around there when they hear or see something? Because
I don't know.
I want to pee my pants and run. Like, I was so
that sequence
scared.
For me too.
I just
pants concern, running concern.
Just like flight response completely, activated, and we were gone. And I can never get it out of my head. I don't really know what happened. I also have like some really spooky noises I caught once with my cousin. We were playing the Ouija board and I videotaped it. And there's two moments where there are whispers and a low growl.
What?
And I still have that tape. And I don't know what that is either. And that has stuck with me. So I don't know.
Wow. No, and I haven't, I'm not like in my regular human relationships, not ghost relationships. I don't have any, but like, I tend to be an empath. However, I'm not sensitive to, I don't find myself sensitive to whether it's that slippage from the multiverse or the other energies that are around us. I'm not particularly sensitive to that at all, though.
I can get like the little hairs on the back of my neck stick up sometimes in situations and spooky like moments. I had a roommate once who I think was haunted by something, so therefore my house was haunted. Like, the lights would flicker a lot. Really, it just felt something spooky. And then as soon as she moved out, that went with her. She ended up seeing a witch doctor in South America, and he told her that she had an entity that she needed to have removed from her, which
I
was
believe in
just,
that stuff. There's stuff
yeah,
that
I mean, it's
happens
just
to people.
crazy. And so
Oh,
I don't know if I'm sensitive to it, but I definitely just feel something feels off. If I'm in a place where I feel like, I don't know, it's like when you meet a serial killer, you're like, something's not right about this guy. I'm not going to go home with him.
You have that detector, you get going the other way.
Like that. Yeah. It's like, it's the same feeling. It's like gut weird. I don't know. My cat sometimes here he'll just meow in the dining room at nothing, like up. And my roommate and I just joke and we're like, it's a ghost. Or he sees the weakness in the multiverse. I don't know.
I tell you, I'm gonna give you some props there. I hadn't thought, like, I'm into multiverse stuff because I'm a comic book guy, right? So now it's like it affects your head. But yeah, I always think of it like, in maybe just always think about the ghosts in terms of energy, and maybe not so much energy transference of moving between realms. So I'm very fascinated by that idea, and we can get somebody on who's like a quantum physics person who explain how what we're saying, there's the science behind it as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was that young kid that talked about he like explained, the Mandela effect, where, people remember certain things a certain way and that's not the way it was, as because there was a YouTube video of him many, many years ago. He's like 11-year-old kid, and he said it was when that big atom collider was turned on.
Yeah.
Forget what it's called, in like Sweden or somewhere. They turned it on.
Yeah, like the particle accelerator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, nothing happened, but in reality something did happen. Our world imploded, but because multiverses are stacked on top of each other really closely, our matter, because two different matters can't exist in the same place, so we just melded in with the Suziey below and maybe the Suziey up top. And so that's why we remember the two different ways things were, because our brains are mush. It was like,
yeah,
I don't know. It made my brain implode.
Philosophy, psychology. Yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to do on this show.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I grew up going to Christian school, so I don't know if it's like something, from
I grew up Catholic
hell or heaven. I grew up Lutheran. So basically the same thing. We're just lazy Catholics.
It's a ghost. It's not being funny or anything like that, but just like the presence of ghosts and spirits is like embedded. So
I mean, The Exorcist was the scariest movie I'd ever seen when I was a kid. That movie.
Hey, have you ever read the book The Exorcist?
No, I would love to read it.
The only reason I mention is my dad. My dad is reading a lot more books in retirement than he did, but he'd always get on me. He said, "Ken," I was like, "I read The Exorcist. You're a big book guy. You go to the university and all that shit. You got to read The Exorcist." And like, I didn't. Maybe I was like, like a snob to The Exorcist book. He's like, "You got to read it. You got to read it." About 8 years ago, I read it. I was blown away. It was so incredibly written, rich, psychologically, like, incredible. And I'm like, I called him up like sheepishly. I'm like, Ken Sr., I'm like, "Hey, Dad, sorry. You told me for 30 years and I read it." He said, "I told you."
Yeah, I love reading books. I read a lot of Stephen King. I read a lot of, I don't know, I love horror books. I love even like biographies of people's insane life stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I love to read. I love to read a book too, not like on my phone.
Yeah.
I like holding a book.
Yeah.
I think it's the old-fashioned person of me that just wants the book. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? We've covered it all, but I'm sure in the future we'll have to talk about some more things. Maybe we'll drop.
I think we have covered a lot.
But maybe we'll do the Suziey Block. We'll do some book recommendations. I'm thinking about your captured audio and what's going on with that. I find it also fascinating. But you know what? By the way, too, one of the things going on with the show where I'm really excited about is uh, my day job's a union guy. I moonlight doing my art stuff, and the show has taken off. And there are things that I'm doing or things that I'm looking at that are very much projected. And one of the things I like is that now when I have guests on, because some of the things that I've done, the amount of time that I've been around, and it's indie, it's do it yourself, like it's hustle.
Yeah.
But my new episodes get 2,000 downloads in 3 days.
That's amazing.
So like when we chat, like I know now that, 2 to 11,000 folks will be listening to it like soon. And
awesome. Yeah, let me know too. I'll be sure to like put it on my social media. I'm trying much better to be a better social media person. I always am like, it's just hard to like update and to keep and to post, you got to post a lot and it's just, yeah, I'm trying better. Part of me, I have a best friend who has a daughter who's like 17, and I'm just like, can I just pay you $50 and have you do my social media?
had that
You know
conversation.
what you're doing. Like you really do. Like you would be able to do this for me. Just do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I struggle with those things. Like I won't do it all with the show because in a certain sense, it's like, again, it's independent, right? And I don't have there's a style and a tone and everything, but there's not a, what do you call it? Like a brand, yet
Yeah.
or anything like that. And that's not how my brain works. Like it could have that. Like I totally believe in coherent understanding of what somebody's bringing, but I do think it's tough. It's tough to do social media and what to say. Like I would be talking to you, Susie, and like I'm, like open and direct. It'd be like I would say to you, like if like visuals that were around scenes that you've done that I see a particular way, I'd be like that, and you point to it. But it's tough to see, like, it's like, what do people want to see, right? Like what should I show? And I think what's cool about for the podcast, I mean, however you want to do it, but one of the things I do is like with kind of like the audio clips, and there's certain ways of doing this show that like I feel it's fun to be ostentatious about it and being like, look at this conversation. This is really cool. And I'm telling you, it's really cool because I know it's really cool. And here it, like here it is. And the proof's within it all too.
Yeah.
As you as an artist, like you have to think the same type of way. Like I know what I did here. And I know like somebody's gonna catch it. Somebody's gonna catch it. Maybe a ton of people will catch it, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I try to post something, I don't know, every day, whether it's of my cats or I don't know what I'm doing that day.
Yeah.
But I try to like, I'm filming a movie this week. So I'm gonna try to be really proactive on set and film stuff.
Look at you. You're still in practice. So I'm gonna
film it. I'm gonna post it if I can. There's not like an NDA. I'll post what I can.
No doubt about it. Oh my goodness.
As long as it doesn't give away this little movie I'm about to do. We'll see what happens. There's an actor in it, David Thornton. He's in a movie called The Terrifier, which it's bad of me, but I have never seen. I guess he plays a clown.
I've heard of The Terrifier. I think there's a sequel too.
Yeah, he's the clown in it, I guess. So a lot of buzz is happening about this little movie, and I'm not sure if
good.
If what it'll turn out to be like, but we'll see. I'm excited to film. I'm playing just a mom, which is kind of funny because I don't feel like a mom, but the lead.
I want to watch the mom scenes. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I want to see them.
I know the lead of the movie is my kid, and he's like it's kind of like a really fucked up version of The Sixth Sense. I think that's what this movie is.
That's enough of to.
He sees like dead people and bad things, but he also wants to do bad things. So it's like a weird, like, yeah.
One final thing. You said you're an animal lover?
Yes, I have a tattoo of my dog that passed away on my arm.
Oh, that's sweet. Can I see it?
It's hard to see. It's
Okay.
Stella. It's upside down right now.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah, I have two cats. They were impulse buys. I didn't buy them when I say that. I like adopted them, but I had a cat. My best cat ever passed away, and I was feeling lonely.
that's tough with the cats.
And my friend she was like fostering 6 kittens, and I went over there to play with the kittens.
Sure, just to play, just to hang out. Yeah.
And then I left with 2 of them. So
I,
someone told me it's always best to have a buddy. And I was like, oh, I can't just take one. It'll be lonely. I'll take both.
Yeah, you made it.
So,
you made a good choice.
I love and hate them because I haven't really had kittens. I found my cat, he was like older.
Yeah.
And kittens are a lot. Like they get into everything. And no one really, I mean, I'm constantly like, no, get down, or like a little spray bottle. But they don't care. You will yell at them and they will do exactly what you just told them not to do again and again and again and again.
Yep.
But on the other hand, they are super cute and lovable and affectionate and want to.
Well, my cat, she's a wild child. She got she used a lot of her lives early on when she was a kitten. She got her metal collar caught in like the plug-in for the lamp, and so she got shocked and shot across the room. And so check this out. And she was named as soon as she was brought home. Her name's Mrs. Mia Wallace as well. And after that happened, I'm like, oh, she's still alive.
Yeah. I feel bad. I was watching American Idol, and there was a contestant on their last season named Fritz Hager. And I was like, oh, that's such a cute name for a cat, Fritz.
Yeah.
And so that's what I named one of them, Fritz. But he has like it's a German name. I didn't think about that. And Fritz has like a German freaking like Hitler mustache. And then I go and I name him a German name. And I was like, that wasn't my intention.
You got covered. No, you got covered. There's actually, I don't know this will provide you covered. There's the underground comic.
There is. Someone told me Fritz the cat.
Fritz the cat. Actually, that might not help your situation. You'll have to decide.
He's awful too. I read some of his stuff. He is like not PC whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean,
different.
Yeah, Fritz the cat. But it suits his name because he's like, he just looks at you like he's just on the fritz all the time. Like something is just like not right. And then I let my roommate name the other one, and she's really into like Disney and those type of like action, heroes and stuff. And he has like a black mask.
Yeah.
Like this. And so she named him Dash after the youngest in the cartoon, The Incredibles.
The Incredibles, yeah.
But he also fits his name because he's just like he dashes like all over the house. So they were named before their names like fit them, but they're exactly like your cat. The name suits them.
This is Mia Wallace. I think she came home as Brie. You know how it goes, right? You go to the shelter.
They were Basil, and my friend had named them all after seasonings. Basil and something else. I can't remember right now. But yeah.
Tarragon.
Like I don't know. Cilantro or something. I can't
remember. Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Susie, I just want to thank you for spending the time. It's been a real great pleasure. And I got to tell you, too, on my side, there's a real fun effect that I'm honest about of, I've been watching your films and then being able to chat with you right after. The research, as I admitted, is a little bit easier with film than other things. But I just really appreciate you spending the time and talking about different things we're chatting about.
Thank you. Are you kidding? This has made my Sunday for sure. This has been awesome.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, to be asked to be on a podcast is it's really cool. So I appreciate you. Thank you. This is
Yeah. Your art is seen within this, and I think it'll be really cool of everybody listeners. We chat a little bit about Death Valley Girls with that UFO episode. I might have to call in Suziey as special correspondent sometime. We'll talk about that later, but thanks so much for coming on the show, and great success in any desert adventures as well.
Oh, thanks. You too.
All right.
Thank you.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.